Good evening and welcome to the Friday, July 18th meeting of the Waxahachie River Town Council. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Browning,
Here.
Vice Mayor Gerald,
Here.
Councilman Goldenegg,
Here.
Councilman Liang,
Here.
Councilman Lockett.
Here. Okay, if you would stand for the pledge, remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, again, we ask for wisdom and guidance as we go through the budget and work things out for our town. We thank you for the opportunity to serve, and we just look to you in this meeting. We pray in your name. Amen. All right, I'll entertain a motion, if there are no changes, to approve the agenda. Okay. Jim makes a motion, Ryan second. Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Moving to the consent agenda.
Motion second.
Jim makes a motion. Is there a second? Second by Ryan. Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes 5-0. Moving to the first group of public comments. I don't know if these are in order or not. I've got Keith Harris, and then Robert Austin will be next.
Motion to receive and file.
So a motion to receive and file, is there a second? We have a second by Tom. Discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, passes 5-0. We got a long way to go tonight, so we want to make sure we limit everything to 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Keith Harris, 25 ABC Road. I'd like to speak to you tonight as a private citizen and give thanks to our Father for his words from the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 13. The town must respond on August 8th to some questions by the Inspector General. The town manager will be bringing this up into his administrative update, but I wanted to point out state statute 95-361 that says that roads must be constructed by a county, municipality, or DOT and maintained for 4 years before it deemed dedicated. Florida court says the statute must be strictly construed. Failure to meet all statutory elements to defeat the dedication. The roads in our town were developed before the town's incorporations. The town did not construct them. The town fails to meet the statutory elements, and there's no dedication of roads, so all the roads on the gas tax map are claimed improperly. Mr. Mayor, I respectfully request a special public council session to convene to prepare the town's response to the Inspector General, as this affects every one of us. And by doing so, we will enhance the public trust in our town government. On another matter, the Water District has basically said no big deal to Marge Herzog's inquiry about fill material from Okeechobee Boulevard appearing on the properties of several Water District supervisors. The fill has been sold to offset the monies used improperly by the Water District to fix public culverts on Okeechobee Road, which is a county road. Found out that the annual budget of the Water District does not include a single dollar for equestrian trails. Marge's supervisor in complaints I've made against supervisors. We've even had a Water District supervisor come to the town hall demanding copies of my personal correspondence that I've sent to Governor Scott, and I think all that is just reprehensible. The board of the Water District board even has guidelines that said they were supposed to act in a very professional and forthright manner, and they didn't do it. So the town, I think, should take over the whole shenanigans here. The town can contract one superintendent who can receive bids and contract scopes of works around the canal, and those works can be performed by private industry, not another government. Town management can do the accounting. The council can approve an advisory committee to look over this, and it won't cost $1.6 million to do it like the district is trying to claim. By doing this, we can lower our assessments.
Okay, wrap it up, please.
Final word is that the independent water district needs to become dependent to the town of Lyle Chapter Road to be dissolved. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Robert Austin.
Hello, Robert Austin, for 13845 Collecting Canal Road. My neighbor and myself came to a meeting a little while back asking about the paving at Collecting Canal Road. It was told to us a couple of years ago it was going to be done. It was even in the papers that Collecting Canal was approved and I believe actually slotted for. We're wondering what happened, why did it fall off. It's been a couple of years now and the dust is only getting worse. Even coming here this evening, I followed 3 cars. We're definitely going over 30 miles an hour, dusting everybody on Collecting Canal out. Is there any answer why was Collecting Canal, why it's not paid? Why it's not-
We're going to be talking about the budget. Right now it's comments, your comments. So
Will we be able to get an answer next meeting?
That's one of those budget things we're going to be talking about, as far as the money to do it,
All right, I mean, as long as it's on the agenda, that's fine.
how we're going to pay for it.
I just wonder why it fell off a couple of years ago.
Okay. Kimberly Clark wants hers read into the record. I agree with raising the millage to 1.5. Please, Ocean Collecting Canal Road at D Road. Harold Murphy, I request my question and comment be read. I support increasing the millage from 1.2 to 1.5 so we can get more revenue from future commercial on Southern Boulevard. Brenda Hastings, I support increasing budget to 1.5, use funds to build budget to improve all roads. Dale and Daryl Debbie Howell, I support raising the millage to 1.5. Owen Whitten, I support the millage increase from 1.2 to 1.5. We need the Ocean Collecting Canal Road and D Road. Diana Whitten, I support raising the millage for the town from 1.2 to 1.5. We need a red light D Road and Southern Boulevard. Karen Damaris, I agree with raising the millage to 1.5. Please, Ocean Collecting Canal Road and D Road. David Damaris. I support an increase in the taxes in Ocean, Collecting Canal, and D Road. Cheryl Damaris. I support raising the millage to 1.5. Please, Ocean Collecting Canal Road and D Road to Southern. And Christine St. John. Oh, you wish to speak?
6, on item number
Oh,
6.
okay,
Proceed,
I got you.
please. Thank you.
I got on a roll. Sorry about that.
Good roll.
All right. Moving to presentations, number 4, the budget.
Thank you, as you know, there was a preliminary submittal to you on July 1st. Tonight is another preliminary submittal, I guess we'll call it that, but in more detail for review tonight. The budget as opposed to you, I'm just going to highlight and go through my memo real quickly, and not try to take a lot of time, just give you some of the highlights. This budget is funded at $2,888,922. It's divided up into our four funds. The general fund budget is $1,118,430, which is representative of 39% of the total budget. Transportation budget, and that number is not correct for 368. It's actually $812,311 because a transfer from fund balance was not included in that. That represents 28% of the total budget. The capital improvements program budget is $530,252, roughly 18% of the budget. And then solid waste is $427,929, which represents 15% of the total budget. My colleague, Mr. Underwood, is here, and after I get through some of the other comments, I want to talk to you about the 3 mil equivalency very quickly. In terms of some of the highlights that we wish to bring to your attention. And a lot of these, and what I'm going over, are some of the comments that council gave me in that very preliminary submittal July 1st. July 1st, you had asked me to go ahead and reduce the millage rate from 1.5 mils to 1.2 mils. That has resulted in a $19,637 revenue deduction. What we didn't have in the budget at that time is the accounting software, the software as a service system, which we have plugged in at a price of $49,000. Council had asked that we reduce the legal budget by $30,000, which was 120 down to 90. We reduced the contingency line item practically due to nothing. It's $32,043 down to $153. We did add in the increase from the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office for our contract. That increase amounted to $2,803 for $283,084. And then, as you know, during this year, you had also authorized $10,000 for our efforts in conjunction with the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office as it relates to livestock waste and any abuse that may be occurring from haulers bringing in waste out of the town. You also recommended that the Public Works budget be reduced by $10,000 from 14 to 4,000. Some CIP highlights quickly to go over. Town road surveying is budgeted at $90,374. The traffic light signal at Okeechobee Boulevard and D Road, there is a change to that. It was increased by $46,944. This was at the request of the FAAC because they wanted to offer the exact cost that we have from the cost estimate that our traffic consultants have provided to us. You know, right now that's at $290,944. So we're reflecting that cost exactly as we know it. Development of horse trails within the town is budgeted at $120,000. And again, once again, the acquisition of the Loxahatchee Road Water Control District Ogen Roads continues for the third year out of 7, and that is at $28,934. The CIP budget also has an unreserved fund balance of $252 to fund capital improvements plan as a transfer in from the transportation fund. So with that, as you know, we have this meeting, we have 2 hearings in September. Obviously, if any workshop or any other meetings are necessary in order to discuss other items as they may come up prior to the budget year, we have those available to us. And at this point, I think I'll turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Underwood, if they want to talk about the 3 mill cookies.
Not really.
You want
No,
me to elaborate?
I think, and on the budget caution, we initially proposed 1.5 mils, because we wanted to make sure that everything was going to be copacetic. Since then, it's my understanding that the council has contacted state, and they've indicated that everything is copacetic and fine, call again next year, something to that degree.
Yeah, I mean, remember last year we went through this and we contacted the Florida Department of Revenue, and they are looking at the revenue for us pursuant to our special act, and I just called to confirm that that position of FDOR is consistent and still there, and they did confirm that. She said that that would be a permanent view, but permanency is a relative term when you're dealing with government, so I'm going to call them every year to make sure nothing has changed, and also we've got to make sure legislation hasn't changed on that too.
Okay. Ron?
Mike, just one question. I like it when you say permanent term, but do we have anything in black and white?
They will not give opinions. Remember that was the issue, so we had to go with the conversation we had last year. I provided you a memo last year.
Right.
You know, so I just called them after talking with Mr. Underwood to verify that that was still FDOR's position. They called with another town with a similar provisions, and they had been applying the same thing.
Okay. Tom?
Regarding the 1.5 to 1.2, I want to bring up 2 points. The first would be, as we can see here, there's $19,000 for various items. There are numerous comments linking the raising of the millage to a particular project. At this rate, it would take maybe 50 years for that to pay for that project. So when you think about it, we'd have to raise taxes 50 times what this is in order to do that one road project. true ad valorem taxes. So that's really not a solution. People should understand the realities of this. The money for these large projects is gonna have to come from the gas tax, or it's gonna have to come from grants, or it's gonna have to come from special assessments, or it's gonna have to come from very significant increases, not big tweaks to the military. So I'm sure people, when you tell them, hey, for an extra $20 a year, you can have a paved road, well, that's a great story to sell, and maybe people go along with that. If we told them for $2,000 a year, you can have a paved road, or $12,000 a year, they may feel differently. So we need to be realistic about what the costs are to do it. And I think that we ought to, if we're going to do anything in the future, we ought to try to do at least a decent job. I'm not saying the best Palm Beach style finish to everything, but we ought to try to do a finish that's straight, that's got an edge, that's got a defined situation, the swales and all these other things, so it's a real road, just so that when we're done, the people can feel like their money was spent properly. So that's the one thing. And the other thing is, I think before you raise taxes, you need to go back to the budget and you need to look at a lot of things here. Because some things that are right now in question in the revenue side are the utility taxes, communications taxes, and these are not trending well over the last several years, and they're not doing very well this year at all. So we could have a shortfall of 50, 60, 70,000 from those revenues. And, you know, we're not going to do anything in the general fund, because even that 60,000 shortfall is only going to be replaced by 20,000, which was the taxes. So we need to understand that generally for revenue, we're not doing that good. We may be looking at tax increases in the future, but before you think about, I need more money, you ought to look at where you're going to spend it. And that's why I think maybe between this, and I know no one wants to spend the evening here, I certainly don't, but we ought to, between this meeting and the other two, we can avail ourselves. I think we ought to at least go, even if it's over the course of several meetings, spend at least one time on each line item to discuss it. Because, like I said, there's some revenue things that perhaps we're going too high on, some other things we may be going too low on, some other things we might say we don't want to do anymore. So, those are my thoughts.
All right, anybody else? Jim?
One other thing to consider when we're talking about ad valorem taxes is I had gone through and made council aware last year this time is over 80% of the ad valorem taxes come from residents. A very small share come from commercial. And that's allowing for commercial growth that we see in the horizon. So we're not just asking for the top commercial to pay the bill. Most of it by line share comes out of our pockets. So don't have a misconception.
No, and I would agree with Jim, and not only that, it's going to be very difficult for inflation. You know, even though this year we got maybe 10% increase, for that to happen every year is just building another boom. You know, so it's going to take things to happen in order for things to change and us to get more money to that ad valorem. And ad valorem isn't the way to go unless we really intend to start going like to 3 and 4 and 5, not just going 1.6. So that's not. If we're going to also be increasing services, which I'm not saying we're going to, and I really think we need to look at and make sure that that's not creeping away from us.
Right.
You know, if government light's government light, then we need to make sure we're staying within the scope of services that we feel are absolutely necessary and not expanding to others.
I think both of you made some good points. I mean, I'm thinking, and I think the paper showed that we increased our property values 11%, which means that we will all pay more taxes. So by upping, you know, the taxes, property values raise your taxes, so they're going to go up anyway. So, you know, it's a little bit scary to keep bumping it up because it's easy to get going. But anyway.
One other thing I wanted to say about the budget, because I didn't want it to be misconstrued, and being on the side that passed this in the beginning, it's proper for me to bring it back up. reducing the public works budget, in light of what else happened that night, I would like to change my vote because I don't want to be in any way construed as my activities, one related to the other.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Ryan, you got anything?
Brian, anything?
Jim made a comment, 80% comes from the residents. I know that. I think the money that we collect from our 1.2% averages out about $38,000. Now, I for one know that our ad valorem taxes is not going to build anything in Loxahatchee Groves. But I also know that the residents of Loxahatchee Groves, I don't believe they never really liked the idea of commercial coming into Loxahatchee. But because of the charter, because of what we needed to do as a town, we agreed on a certain area for commercial. I do not believe that when people want to put commercial in the town of Loxahatchee Groves, that they come in here because they don't have to pay no taxes. I believe that if they want to do business in Loxahatchee Groves, they need to pay taxes to us. And if it's only $3,000, if it's only $10,000, the residents can reap the benefits. Now, I support going from 1.2 to 1.5. When I got on this board 6 years ago, I was one of the ones that wanted to reduce it down to 0. I've learned a lot since then, and I've realized if we're going to bring commercial in Loxahatchee Groves, we don't need to be reducing it down to 0. Everybody around us, Royal Palm, Wellington, anybody, they pay an arm and a leg when they bring their businesses into their town. If we go up to 1.5 this year, and we've had some bad years behind us, all right, but I believe we're on the upswing. How fast, I don't know. If I believe if we make it through 2015, it's only going to keep getting better and better. Right now, some say 11%, some have said 17%. But what I see in Loxahatchee Groves is I see the homes being built, the horse barns being built, commercial, equestrian stuff coming into Loxahatchee. And I see, and plus the paper also said, last year people made comments that Loxahatchee Groves was the least percentage increase as far as property sales and stuff. The paper also said that Loxahatchee Groves was the highest percentage in property increase values this year. We're on an upswing, folks. We got people coming to Loxahatchee because they can't buy land anywhere else. We got professionals on A Road. A professional roper is going to build a huge barn to teach people how to rope cows or roping horses and stuff. So, and we will see in the next 2 to 5 years, we will see our commercials starting to come in. The start is the Medical Plaza at F Road in Southern. The county values it now as vacant commercial, and it's valued almost at $2 million. When they fill the offices and they start doing businesses, it's going to be more than the $2 million. Okay, and no matter if it's only $10,000 we get from that business, that's revenue coming into this town. So we need to make a move as residents and council members to raise this back up to 1.5. We started out at 1.5. We reduced it down because we honestly thought we were doing what was best for the residents. We are not doing what's best for the residents because this town, since we became a town, or especially since this board came on board, we paid $120,000 towards your garbage fees last year. We've done numerous things. We had the CNC loader come in, do a pre-hurricane run to pick up vegetation that don't cost you anything. The town pays for it. That comes out of the revenues and stuff. We have tried to give back to you to make up for any other costs that has gone up. So if I've got a calculation here of a person that's taxed as $100,000 homes, and we've got a lot of homes in Loxahatchee that's not even assessed at $100,000, and a lot of them are kin to me, but at $100,000, and here's what I like about this. First of all, most of you in this audience have been here for a long time. You've got homestead exemption. The worst the county can do to you each year is increase your taxes by 3% because you're locked in. The new ones coming in, they're not going to have the same benefits as the people that has done all the work here and voted for a town and stuff like that. So $100,000 valued home, first of all, you get a $50,000 reduction because of homestead. All right, but that person would pay, if we went to 1.5 and 1.2, he would have an increase of $15. All right, $15. And then when I only picked 3, can Keith ask the question on the ones?
What's that?
I'm not asking a question.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. The other one, I tried to stay within our range. Now, we've got places in Loxahatchee that's worth over $1 million. But I went to 300,000, and with $50,000 homestead exemption, and there are more benefits out there that you can get through the county and stuff besides just homestead. But that person would pay $75 more a year with this increase. At $500,000 with the homestead, you would pay $135 more increase. But that 1.5 is going to make the commercial people pay more to this town. And the other thing, this council, we can give you that at the worst scenario. If you had a $500,000 home and you were paying $135 more than what you did last year, we can give you that $135 back by reducing your garbage, by paying. This town can afford to pay the garbage bill. Now that's just fact. We've got 3.4 mil in the bank, all right, and I realize that what we put out this year, we basically had enough coming in to balance out, maybe not even enough coming in. But next year it is going to be different. We're going to have more coming in, and it's going to be at the end of the year, it's going to be how much we spend compared to how much we got coming in. But we can afford to pay your garbage bill. We can afford to have CNC loader come in and do a hurricane run and get vegetation like you've never been able to do before with the county. We've got complaints now where Waste Pro comes by 6 cubic yards. It may take you 2 weeks to get your vegetation picked up. But this town has done a lot of positive things for you. And we can give you, if you paid $135 more because of the increase, we as a council, we can give it back to you. Now, it's just as simple as that. So we don't need to pedal backwards. We need to raise it back up to 1.5 like when we started. For some reason, they started at 1.5 for a reason. I'm not going to research, I'm not going to ask them why. But they felt like it was worthwhile. And in 6 years, I've realized it doesn't do this town any good to cut our taxes with what little the residents are paying. So that's where I stand on that. We need to move ahead. We need to go back to 1.5, see what happens during the year, see how many residents that it hurts that we can't give it back to. And then next year, if we have to reduce it, we reduce it back. But no, we have to step forward.
Okay, Tom.
I'd like to ask, Mark, do we have to decide the 1.5 issue tonight?
Yeah, we should, because we're setting up tentative village others.
All right, well then, my comment, if that's the case, is that we're only talking about $20,000. And to say for $20,000, we can do John Choquette for 15, and then reduce people's garbage, you're only gonna be able to reduce it 5,000. If there's 1,200 people that get garbage, we're gonna take off less than $5 off their garbage bill. So we can't overpromise what 1.5 would do. I'd be interested to know what the shopping centers that are proposed would generate in tax revenue in order to understand what we're talking about. But what we're talking about is just 0.3 mil increase on a particular shopping center. That if we're only talking about a couple $1,000s, we could save that by not buying an accounting system for $49,000. And we could save that at the same amount we'd make in a long period of time. I'm not belittling what Ron says. We definitely need to get money if we're going to do projects. And that is the real question that we need to be discussing, and we need to build the budget the other way. Not from how much money we got down, but from what do we want to do up to see how much money we need. Versus the other way to say, oh, let's go ahead and take all this money because we need it, and then go ahead and figure it out. Because I think if we go the other way around and we determine what we really want to do, then we will get there. If we want to pay everybody's garbage bill, I do understand that you can pay everybody's garbage bill by raising the rates to a much higher rate. We discussed that last year. It has some effects relative to people who have bigger houses would pay much more in that case, and people who have smaller houses would probably save money on their garbage. And it would definitely be a progressive tax benefit to people, and I don't disagree with that idea entirely. And there's some studies on it that they did. Go ahead.
Mayor, I just wanted to fully amend the answer I just gave Councilman Golson. The one thing to remember is you're setting tentative millage. So you can set it at 1.5 tonight if that's your ultimate decision. You can propose, you always have the ability to lower it. However, if you set it at 1.2 tonight, you can't raise it.
Right.
Okay.
I understand. I understand. All right.
All that being said, it's just a $20,000 issue is what I'm saying.
Any other council members? Jim?
One reason why we're able to do a number of things that we've been able to do over the last few years, because of the surplus that we have, which came from additional revenues that we did not have the defined need for or the use of. One. Two, if we raise taxes on one hand and give it back to somebody else, give it back in another way, all you're doing is take it from one pocket and put it in the other. I agree with Tom's point that we need to develop our budget based on what our needs are, bottoms up. In the old days, we used to call it zero-based budgeting, and we ought to get back to that, where you have to justify every line item to what it really needs, not necessarily what it was last year and raise 3%, but what we really need. But bottoms-up type building of a budget, and then decide where the funds have to come from. And the other points were made that millage is a very small percentage of our total revenues. And a small drop in our total revenues, we can easily raise the millage to compensate for it. But my perspective is, one, we've got taxes going up without raising the mill because of valuation of homes. We may be continuing that trend. I think we're going to be seeing that, but I don't know if it's going to be 11% every year. So I would work with what we have, scrub our expense, or where we spend our money, and make a decision as to what we think we need based on what we want to spend our money on. Understanding that we have a lot of money that we have managed to put aside from earlier years, that we have been looking at where we're going to spend things in the future, and that fund, those funds are coming up to where we go to get. We go to those funds we already have. So I just can't see, first of all, I can't see raise a millage for any reason, just so we can give it back to somebody, the same people that we took it from. That, to me, doesn't make sense. We really need to justify what we're going to spend on and then figure out where the funds are going if we don't already have them. If we have a lot of funds, we have some projects that are significant, then we divvy out the funds that way and we spend them until such a time that we get to a reserve level where we have, which we have set up in terms of, we basically allow 25% of our funds to be held aside and not spend them, because that's a contingency, that's our reserve plan. Now, if everybody in this room, in their personal finances, had 25% of their salary set aside on the side, just sitting in the bank in case something might happen, we all may like to have that, but I don't know that we all are in that situation. So I think that's a pretty healthy perspective as far as recovering ourselves. We don't need to add to the revenues to have it. You know, government is known to, if you tax more, you will spend more. It's just natural things that other governments have been doing. I don't want to be one of them. There's no reason to raise it. 1.2 is where we said we wanted to start from, and I think that's where we ought to stay.
Okay, any other council members? Ron?
Again, the most important point that I forgot to bring up is no, I will, but I want to finish something, okay? Our FACT committee, there's 5 people on that FACT committee. Now, I'm only speaking for myself. Every one of them on that FACT committee can run circles around me when it comes to finance and money and stuff. And I respect them for taking the time out to do that on a voluntary basis. Our FACT committee recommended that we go to 1.5. Now, I'd say one council member up here is probably just as good as any of them on that committee, and that would be Jim Rocket. Now, if I'm insulting anybody else, then I apologize. But as far as myself, no, I can't do what they do. There comes a time when we have to listen to our committees, We have to respect the research and the study and all the time they put in, and we have to make a decision whether to do what they recommend or whether we don't. And it is not silly. I can see where if the taxpayer pays $135 more, I can see where I can take that from a commercial business coming into our town and give it back to the taxpayers. And let me clarify it one more time. I do not depend on the millage to pay for anything, but I do depend on commercial businesses to put something back into this town. And when they put it back into the town, we'll take that and we'll give the residents back whatever we can through garbage discounts, through vegetation pickup, or whatever. And we need to raise it back to 1.5. I make a motion that we set the millage at 1.5.
We have a motion to set the millage at 1.5. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ryan. Further discussion by the council. Tom?
I'm going to vote for it only because we can change it later, so I will bring up possibly changing it.
Okay.
But for now, just because, I will go ahead and vote for it.
Okay. Anybody else? One of the reasons, and very quickly, I was on that original council that set the 1.5 because we did not know as a brand new town what law enforcement was going to cost us, what garbage pickup was going to cost us. We had no idea what those were. So we set a 1.5. It was still the lowest in the county, but that's what we came up with. Please understand, we looked at that compared to Royal Palm. We said, well, we've got the lowest millage. Remember, we still pay the Water Control Board on top of that. So it's not like our taxes, go to nothing. Our millage is a very small part of what Palm Beach County charges each one of us in taxes. So it doesn't amount to a lot, to $20,000. But when you put the budget for your house together, every little bit counts. But I agree with Tom. We can always move it down, we can't move it up. So, all right, we have a motion and a second.
Well, I haven't heard anything tonight that justifies moving it up. You move it up just to move it up, it just really seems silly to me. We have a budget. One of the points that was being brought up is the FAT committee and their proposal for 1.5 was based on the budget. That was their mechanism to balance the budget revenues versus expenditures. We have balanced the budget revenues versus expenditures in another fashion. In part, in large part, we cut expenditures. And the other side, we've gotten a windfall for the millage from with our county, the assessment that we see coming in next year, which is an increase. So the way to, I don't see raising the millage just to raise it, so we can lower it later. We ought to be able to tell based on what we've had in terms of our budget proposal and what we see as terms of line items and revenues. If we can't decide 1.2 now, and we think we can decide it later, we're kidding ourselves. I just think it's silly to raise it to 1.5.
Okay.
Last comment. Okay, I don't think it's silly because for the simple fact that we've got a couple weeks where the residents of Loxahatchee Groves, if they know that we've got a tentative of 1.5, it gives them time to, and I know Loxahatchee well enough to know that they'll be coming in here. If they have a problem with it, they'll be here when it comes time to finalize it, and we'll listen to the people and we'll make our decision. So I like the idea of making it 1.5 to give the people time to come in here and either lower it or keep it the same. So it's very important that they have time to do that.
The biggest problem I have, and correct me if my arithmetic is wrong, we are raising the taxes 20%. Yeah. So when we answer to our neighbors and our neighbors say, why are my taxes going up 20%? They really don't understand that it's only $20,000. They're looking at a 20% increase in their taxes. There is no way in the world, we like to sit up here, there's no way in the world that the property is going to go up in value 10% a year. It can't happen, or you're going to have another crash. The bottom line is it's got to stay pretty close to the cost of living, which really forces us all out of our tax money anyway. So we shouldn't be really happy and giddy because the value of the houses are going up, because they're just going to charge us more, in the long run. But anyway, we are set to approve a 20% tax increase. If I was to hear that without knowing the numbers, I'd be ticked. But anyway, It's, Tom?
I want to emphasize that the only reason I would approve it is because we can change it, and I am expecting us to have the line-by-line review that I discussed. If the expenses stay the same and there's nothing changed, and we just go with it the way it is, then I would not agree with that. But just looking at this bullet of 6 things here, if you look, one's down 20 and the other one's up 49, we're already up 29, and I don't see, then we go down 30, so now we go right through there, we only save 10 grand out of this whole thing I just saw, and that's probably in the 10 grand we gave to the sheriff department to pursue the manure. So, and then boom, we're right to nowhere. So, I think we need to look at all of it. I really think we're overstating our revenue from the other sources, and I'm concerned about that because we could lose a lot more than we're even talking about raising here. And then,
Okay, I've got one public comment, Christine St. John. No, we have not voted yet.
Christine St. John, 43rd Road North. As I understand it, our total budget is almost 3 million, but we have reserves of 3.4 million, and 25% is typically an adequate reserve. Perhaps in September meeting, I don't want to take up everybody's time with this special Friday night one, but how did we get 3.4, and why is it sitting there? That's just, think about that and come up with a great answer. Thanks.
We know how we came up with the 3.4, spending less than we took in those first few years, but anyway. Okay, we have a motion and a second to increase the millage to 1.5. All in favor, signify by saying, do we need a roll call vote on this?
Yes.
Okay, roll call vote.
Councilman Rocket,
No.
Councilman Liang,
Yes.
Mayor Browning,
No.
Vice Mayor Gerald,
Yes.
Councilman Goldson.
yes.
All right, motion passes 3-2.
Mr. Mayor, you want to go ahead, since you voted for the millage, let's go ahead and adopt the millage resolution,
Sure.
which is 6B as in boy.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and read the title. It's Resolution 2014-07. A resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Waxahachie, Rose, Florida, adopting a proposed operating millage rate of 1.500 for general operating budget purposes for fiscal year 2014-2015, approving and authorizing transmittal of the Form DR 420 to the property appraiser, providing for the establishment of and setting forth the date, time, and place of the public hearing to consider the fiscal year 2014-2015 proposed budget rate and tentative budget, providing for conflict, severability, and effective date. The resolution does set the, there is a blank in section 4. What's the proposed date for the public meeting in September 9th? At 7 p.m., which is Tuesday night. That'd be your first public hearing, your budget and millage. The operating millage is 1.500. The rollback rate is 1.095, and those figures will all be reflected in the resolution you adopt this evening.
Okay. So we need a motion to pass this resolution.
Pass the resolution.
I'll make a motion to pass resolution number 2014-7.
Second.
We have a second by Ron. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Opposed?
Okay, we have passes 4-1. Yeah, we've got other stuff we're talking about in the budget tonight, right?
Yeah, we just wanted, since you passed that, so you can go back and talk about the budget. You still have to do a solid waste assessment
Okay.
as well.
All right. Moving to, where are we at?
You're still.
Well, Your Honor, you're still in the budget. I guess the question is, I didn't know if you wanted to go line item by line item, page by page, whatever.
If I could recommend, since we're doing the budget, we have to do the solid waste. Let's do the solid waste part of the budget. Let's do that fund. And then we'll do the general fund, and then skip to the transportation fund another night, so we can get out of here.
That'd probably be a good idea. Everybody all right with that?
Just a question about the transportation. Last council meeting, I asked about the discussion of collecting canal and D road as far as Ocean goes, and that has been put it back on tonight if we have a consensus. I don't want it forgotten about, in other words, and I've got a different outlook on it.
Right, well, that's the capital improvements fund, and yes, we probably should discuss that. If you want that back on, that would be good to know tonight.
Okay, under capital improvement.
Why do we need to change the capital? If we're just changing the capital improvement fund around, we're not gonna transfer to or from, why do we need to mess with that tonight? I'm just saying, if we're gonna do, if we're
Trying to
gonna
get a
do
budget
it,
improvement.
if we're gonna do it on 3 meetings, let's just do a couple funds tonight, and the capital improvement and transportation another night.
You can do it that way, I just felt that
That-
was
I
a
think
good idea,
that's-
I want to talk about
I
it.
think that's a meeting in itself, honestly.
And that gives me more time, so no, I just didn't wait on it.
Okay. All right, so the next one we're going to is garbage.
You want to talk about the garbage fund, or do you want to just do the resolution?
I think we should talk about what's the.
Yeah, let's talk,
makes it
talk
up.
about it, yeah.
I mean, I think we should do it by the bottom up. We should know what, before we say how much we can charge people for the garbage, we need to know how much it's gonna cost to provide it. And then we'll know, make sure we charge enough, and it's not that hard.
You want to go to page 53 of 99 if you want to talk about that. I'm sorry, that's the wrong page. That was on capital improvements. 660 of 99.
60?
Okay. Who's taking this?
Well, we're ready to page, we're on page 60, we're talking the solid waste fund. We have the estimated revenues and we have the appropriations. Do you want to go, if there's any questions, or do you want to go by each line item, whatever you want to do?
I noticed one thing that Ron talked about, which was the hurricane pickup is not included in this year.
Right.
So is that something that we want to include again? I don't even know if we're doing it this current.
We didn't do it this year.
So if we wanted to put it in, now would be the time to put it in for next year, here in this budget.
What are your thoughts on that?
I'd definitely like to put it in. If there's no vegetation to pick up, then it's not gonna cost us a dime, but it's a benefit given back to the people. And every year we do it, we always get the maximum amount, I believe. Don't we, Mark? Don't we usually get what we allot?
Yes.
Yeah. I think the idea is good. We have to give people enough head start, that they can do it and work toward that. But I think it's a good idea, because when you've got the small amounts to pick up, especially when you get close to hurricane season, it could cause a problem later on. So, I think that's a good thing to put back in the budget. Anybody else?
We have any ways to offset that? Are you gonna change your rate to everybody? Because I think you started out this budget with no change year to year in terms of the rate charged.
Yeah, it's still 344.
And by the way, Mark, how many people is that for?
It's 1,258 units.
1258 units?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got, if we add money into the expenditures, we're gonna have to come up with a change and minus someplace else or increase that charge, right?
You're going to have to add, to the revenue.
Can we pull money out or, we don't have enough in our reserves? Okay, never mind.
All right, anybody want to make a motion?
Mark, we had it on the limit. What have we done in the past as far as that?
The last 2 years, I believe we spent right around 15,000 to do the vegetation clearing at storm time.
I make a motion that we allot 15,000 for vegetation pickup prior to hurricane season. Okay, second? Second. Second by Ryan. Motion by Ron. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. All right, are we going to go by this item by item? Bill, you going to take this, or are we just going to make a motion to approve it?
We can, we will have to change, in order to accommodate the $15,000, we will have to change the annual assessment from $344.10 to $356.20.
Okay, Tom?
That would generate enough revenue to cover that expense and the reduction.
Okay.
So basically, Bill, if the residents want to haul a lot of vegetation out to the road, that's gonna cost them extra $12.20 then? Okay, all right, I just don't want to get it.
Well, one way to look at it too is, isn't there money from fines to waste pro this year over and above the, that would be left over in the transportation fund? For this current year, would there be more than 15,000 that would roll forward?
I think the net between the monitor and the reductions is a couple thousand.
I mean, we're talking worst case scenario. If there is not a lot to be picked up, that number will be reduced, so the people will not be paying that
No,
money.
they pay it. They pay it.
Yeah, once you say,
Once you
set
set
it,
it, they'll be paid.
it's included.
You can reduce it at the final, which is September 11th.
Yes, September 11th, but because you're proposing a higher rate than last year, the town will have to do special first-class mail to everybody. If you keep it at the rate you had last year or lower, then you can use the trim notice and only send first-class.
Or you could use 15 and the 19 from the 1.5.
I like that better.
You spend it,
Yeah.
just to show you how quickly, if you bring it in, how quickly you spend it. You spend it the very first thing we talk about.
That goes back to state rate.
And that's correct.
One of the things, I really, you know,
I mean, I don't take advantage of that, but other people do that have larger lots, I know, like to clear this stuff and put it out to the road.
I have a hard time. I mean, I really think it ought to be very clear to our taxpayers, this is what you're paying for this. When we start shuffling, okay, well, we're gonna save you here, but we're gonna take it from there. It reminds me of the old game with the thimbles.
Yeah.
You know, where's the deed? Yeah, where's it going and who's paying for that? And I would rather have it very clear as to what we're doing.
But we need to,
All right, I've got Ken Johnson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of suggestions. Does everybody here believe in free money?
Free money.
In free money.
I like to know where it's at there, so you get to it.
Okay.
No such thing.
All right, you look online, 405-343-120-000. That's solid waste recycling income. How many people in this room recycle their things to the fullest end? If we got everybody on a program to do that, how much may that line be rather than $8,000? $8,000 is a drop in the bucket right now. If we could increase that to $20,000 to $30,000, if we could really get on a campaign to promote recycling, if we did it road by road to start off with, they give you the containers free. They'll come out and deliver them to your house. If we ordered containers for everybody on a road a month, how much could that be in free money for us that in essence comes off of our total bill, correct? That's one thing. Second thing, I believe we've got a ordinance that states that if you run a business, you should have a dumpster. Is that not correct? Okay. I really don't believe that that ordinance is being followed in its entirety. I think we've got too many businesses out here and too few of the, containers that, so consequently, those people are getting a free ride off of all of our tax dollars. Is that right? I don't think so. We're paying for that. So I think we need another campaign on identifying these businesses that do not have containers and force them to get it. Or else we fine them. As a thing? That would reduce what you and I are paying for our garbage. Third thing, last year, I think Frank Child brought up a program that I think was noteworthy. It was about getting containers. Everybody gets 2 containers.
Okay.
If you need more, you have to pay for an annual rate to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. All right.
Mr. Mayor, could Mark speak to the issue of businesses and how that does or doesn't affect us? Because I don't know that that really has a benefit to the town one way or the other.
Okay, Mark, you want to speak to that?
I'm sorry, we were having a conversation, I apologize.
No.
Would you have to ask the question again?
Yeah, the question is, if somebody has a business and is does not have a dumpster, puts their garbage in a garbage can and pays the normal local rate, how would that be affected if instead they had a dumpster?
I don't think it would be affected. I mean, the contract calls for commercial users to make their own accommodation in the waste burn. Where we would probably see a difference would be if somebody were illegally having a commercial waste hauled through our residential program. And we took action that way. That might be where it's happening, but I mean, just to have them do it in a, is that what you're at? I mean, am I understanding you correctly?
My question is, how does it affect us economically? I really don't care whether it's fair. How does it affect the budget? If somebody had a business and they're supposed to have a dumpster, instead of that, they put it out in 3 garbage cans, Waste Pro took it away and never had a problem?
I don't think you see any appreciable difference because basically it would just be.
Because we discussed this concept of like when people have 2 houses on a property and they pay double, well, as soon as you go ahead and charge them double, then you pay Waste Pro double, and so you don't really change the bottom line to us. And so if there's a way to change the bottom line, I'm interested in hearing that, but
We would be addressing the inequity of them cheating on not getting their own commercial dumpster.
But the cheating aspect really is relative to Waste Pro, they're just picking up garbage one way or the other. It's no more than the guy with 6 kids and the guy with none. Everybody's paying the same rate.
Okay, Ron,
And the guy with 6 kids.
Just one quick comment now. I may have misunderstood Frank, and Frank definitely knows solid waste. Now, I thought he said that for every dumpster in Loxahatchee Groves, that we would get something like a franchise fee off of it, but he could answer that without any doubt. But
That would be something I'm looking at. If we would get an extra $50 from everybody who did that.
that's the way I understood it, and I could be misunderstanding.
That was discussed maybe a year or 2 back at FAAC, but we never took any formal action or anything. That would still have to be vetted and looked at if you wanted to look at something like that.
Okay. All right, I've got Phyllis. Oh, you want red?
I was, yeah, I'd like to.
405-534-345-000, which is contractual waste over. Can it go to the next hired town vendor if needed?
And I want to know what it is. It's $7,000. Is that a month or for the
No,
year?
it's a year of budget.
And what is that exactly?
It's oversight.
Okay. Over, watching over.
That's a solid waste month.
Okay.
And will it go to the next vendor if there is a next vendor? Because it says his name in here.
If
That's
you
all.
were unhappy with the vendor and you wanted to get a new vendor, we would go through a request for proposal to get a new vendor.
Okay, but this money would go to whoever's doing that.
That's
okay.
right.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Any other questions on this? And the only concern I have is that when you've got commercial guys, and there's guys out there with commercial lawn businesses that come in at night and dump the stuff, they charge the person if they do the cutting or the trimming or whatever, and then they come in and they dump it on the side of the road. And too often, our garbage pickup contractors pick that up. And my concern is that in the long run, every business compares cost to profit. And if all of a sudden their costs for picking up garbage in Loxahatchee Groves go up to where they're not making enough money, they will raise our rates. So, that is one of my issues that we need to be fair. If they're not paying for that pickup, they shouldn't be getting it. And, that's part of the issue.
One thing maybe to look at breaking up the contract in the future where you take the vegetation pickup out of it and get somebody who does waste recycling to pick it up and recycle it, and maybe charge us less, in that they would have all of that available for their use.
Right. I guess the only thing is, to be fair, the homeowner pays and gets the 6 cubic yards, and the business is making money twice on it, because he charges the
We charge
homeowner,
it and then hauls it.
and then he hauls it and dumps it and gets it picked up for free. So
It's like the guy who dumped the tile on the side of my road.
Yes.
He got a dump truck load paid for and then dumped it on my road for free. So
Sure. All right, just a concern, and it's something that we probably need to get Frank to watch closer, because too often I see piles that are obviously from yard maintenance contractors, they sit on the road. and
before we start
they-
talking about Frank watching more, though, we have to remember we're cutting Frank's contract all around the place.
Okay,
So, which we shouldn't have done. When we get to that line item,
All right.
I'm gonna propose to go back again.
okay, all right.
We didn't hear that.
Do we need to do anything? Where do we go next? I mean, we're sitting here kind of throwing things around, and we'll be here till midnight.
Right. Well, if we're here, maybe we can go ahead and approve the solid waste assessment, which is the other thing we have to do, right?
Yes. Did, I want to make sure the vote was, or it was budgeted for the 15,000 addition to the budget for
I don't
this
think you
year.
called the vote on that motion.
Yeah, that was 5-0.
5-0?
No.
No, you didn't call
We
me.
did not call a vote on that?
Those are motions and second.
Okay, we have a motion, and
No, not on the resolution. No, not on the resolution. We're not talking about the resolution.
we're talking about $15,000 for the hurricane pickup. We didn't, I thought we voted on it. All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign?
We did,
Okay.
we did vote, we didn't take a roll call vote.
Okay. All right, passes 4-1.
That was a 5-0.
Change. Okay.
Now, the next action would be to adopt the gross amount and the individual amount. The gross amount based on the 15,000 would be $448,229, and the individual would be $356.30. And that resolution is ready for the attorney to read.
And that's for your discussion on this, because we put the 15,000 in, that'll raise your rate from last year, to be from 344 to 356.30. And then we'll have to do the first class mailing, since that's a higher rate.
How much is that?
About 1,500.
That's just for the mailing,
Then you
that's
need to
not the
change the
postage.
300 then too, don't you?
That's just the mailing and not the
It
postage.
was over $2,000 last year.
Then management, you need to tell us where we take that 15,000 from without costing us 2,000.
Well, I can take it out of, you do, although your fund balance is not exactly correct, because you don't have enough, but you do have a little there, you got 37,000, we can take it out of your retained earnings or fund balance, if that's okay with the commission, and you would agree with that, and I'll bring back in a budget amendment adjusting that for the $1,500 or $2,000.
We could take the whole 15,000 out of that if we had to, but we'd be below our reserve.
You could.
Not raising the number.
All right.
We're talking about, oh, excuse me, Mr. Mayor. We're talking about $3 million in the bank, and we can take $15,000 out of it
Yeah.
and put it towards this additional thing. And we're not really done with all the line items yet, because I think Tom mentioned something. So we don't want to adopt any kind of rate until we get through all the items that we want to.
Except we have to adopt this rate tonight.
Yeah, if you want to add anything back, we better put some more money in now and then adopt the rate.
You will have your meeting September 12th to reduce the rate. We'd like to do it right now, or 11th, excuse me.
But we wouldn't want to reduce the rate.
Well, so let me ask you again, how much
Just
money,
granted, then.
after you've done whatever you have to do relative to the monitor and the charges, how much money will be left in the fund balance, and would it cover the $15,000?
that would cover, that you wouldn't have any, it would be break even.
Break even.
Yeah.
So there'd be no reserve in the transportation fund, it would be.
Well, no, we're talking solid waste.
Solid waste.
That's, yeah, that's what I'm
Well, I mean, you currently have a reserve of 37,000 on fund balance. You have a policy that says that you would keep 42,000 in reserve. You don't have that. So you're shy of that.
Policy's a guideline, it's not an absolute rule or statute. So we can take a little out now and whatever. But you can't, you're talking about, I mean, 2,000 is 2,000. If you're getting 200,000 out of it, maybe 2,000 worth spending, but you can get it out of your reserve. Again, you've got the money in the bank. This is one case where we would violate our reserve, but it is it is, yeah, I'm saying transportation, but it is a solid waste fund. And we get most of that money in the early part of the year, so it's not like we're really gonna be exposed,
Right.
in my mind. So we could drop that to 10% if we had to, but then, I mean, below 10%.
It is a 10.
It is a 10%. So we can get it there, change, leave the number where it is, pay your 15,000, and decide, maybe we only spend 8 because we don't have that much trash, and it comes out of the surplus.
Sorry, I'd make a motion that we leave it the same as last year and take the money out of the fund balance in order to cover the 15,000.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Everybody all right with that?
We're good with that.
Okay. We have a motion by Tom, second by Jim. Further discussion on that? All in favor? Do we need a roll call vote on this?
No, not on this one.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, passes 5-0. All right.
You want to do the resolution now that you've
Yes.
done the rate? Okay. Let me just go through the resolution. There's information to be put in the resolution. The resolution will reflect that the rate for next year was proposed at $344.10. The hearing on this will be on Thursday, September 11th at 7 p.m. And the reason that it can't be on the 9th is that you are using your notice for your notice on this. And then the total amount, assessed cost is $432,877.80. And again, the per unit rate on that schedule is going to be $344.10, and then that same amount will be in the advertisement form, which is attached to the resolution. So with that, I'll go ahead and I will read the resolution title 2014-06. I'm sorry, I didn't have the microphone in my face. A resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Wax Hatch goes forward relating to the provision of residential solid waste collection services and facilities and programs, solid waste collection services in the Town of Wax Hatch goes forward, providing for purpose and definition, providing for legislative determinations, establishing the estimated rate for the solid waste collection service assessment for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2014, directing the preparation of an assessment roll, authorizing public hearing and directing provision of notice thereof, providing for conflicts of voting effective date.
All right, we have a resolution. Someone want to make a motion to accept this resolution?
I'll make a motion to accept resolution 2014-06.
Jim has made motions, or second?
Second.
Okay, second by Tom. Further discussion by council? Roll call vote?
Mayor Brown?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Councilman Ryan? Lane McMahon?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. Didn't change.
Vice Mayor Darrell?
Yes.
Councilman Goldenegg?
Yes.
Councilman Rocket?
Yes.
All right. The next thing we've got is just a resolution regarding the signs.
Will you get talking more about this?
What's that?
Budget? What's that?
Yeah, but 3 more total funds to talk about. Capital, transportation, general. We do the general next time, and the other 2, then we're done. The next one is that what we want to read and go forward.
Sounds good to me. Everybody all right with that?
Ain't putting this stuff on because I'm concerned we get short times.
We'll spend the time on it.
We've got what, we're 7 o'clock, supposed to be done by 9, what do we have, house president reports?
Well, remember, we started at 6.
Yeah, he's already
Yeah,
on.
sure, it's supposed to be done at 9.
Ron's late for work already.
All right, I mean, I don't care, we're moving through this, we've still got some things to cover, but, you know, if you want to tackle another one, none of those are easy, but we can do that.
We could do general fund revenue if you want, but I don't know that they're prepared with all the numbers
you know, because to me, there's significant shortfalls in those, and I'm gonna wanna know why, and I'm gonna need to know where we are up to date, and if, where we are percentage-wise and stuff, I don't know that we're ready to discuss that aspect of it yet.
Okay, moving on to 6C.
We decided to move on.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution to confirm your meeting times. The issue, I guess, there was an inquiry to town management about where the resolution was setting your regular meetings, and when I reviewed the records, I found that the very first meeting, I think it was March 29, 27, there was a motion made to set your meetings. I could not confirm there was a resolution. This is to confirm that action that was taken there, so it's consistent with the charter. And it provides for, and it's consistent with the action that was taken that night. It also provides for the changing of the regular meetings by motion, adding, canceling, moving days, whatever by motion. The one item that was approved on that March evening 7 years ago was to end all your meetings at 10:30. That's not included in this resolution because since I've been here, that hasn't been the custom of the council. So I defer to you whether you want to direct me to put that into this resolution or leave the ending times to your discretion and your business.
All right, what do you think? Thoughts?
I make a motion to accept the resolution 2014-08.
I need to read it, but I just wanted to have that.
Okay.
I would like to amend it to 10:30 and say that if we get to 10:30, we have to decide by a positive vote to keep going. Yeah, we already voted that time.
The original intent of that, when Clete was here and he was hiring people to stay here, he wanted to make sure they were out in time to lock it up and get home at a reasonable time. That's why the 10:30 time was there. So if we have it to where we can vote and extend it.
If something's really important to stay for,
Yeah,
okay,
that's not fine.
I think we should do it that way. So I would amend, Jim would amend his motion to us, I would second it.
Okay.
I would rather leave it as an option that we say, let's shoot for 10:30. We haven't really tried to do that. And then work that way. If it runs that we have something that we make a decision that we've done before. We've had issues on our agenda and we say, all right, let's move this off because of the time. Then do that rather than, I don't like seeing us restricted. If we're trying to get something done and we're on a roll and another 10 minutes to do it, and we have a resolution that says you gotta stop, don't close the shop and go home. I think we can, we're all adults here, we can decide at the night of the meeting, if we're running, you know, hey, we're trying to do 10:30, let's take that in front of me, we're trying to do that at 10:30, and then let's see if we can do that, rather than make it a hard time.
Just a couple thoughts on that. When you do things in the middle of the night, when things happen in government in the middle of the night, people tend to wonder what happened, and they went home, and then they're wondering, oh gee, what happened, I wasn't there. That's one issue. And my wife doesn't come to these meetings, and she don't really have much opinions on what goes on around here, but when I told her I had a meeting on Friday night, she said, well, she picked the night to where these people would show up. So, you know, just the general public's perception of things. When you talk about the budget, you make it when people can't show up, you know?
I agree.
Think about it. So I'd like to see that, but in lieu of that, I think we really need to pay attention to it.
Okay, go ahead and read the resolution.
A resolution of the Town Council, Town of Waxahachie Coast, Florida, relating to Town Council meetings, confirming the time and place of regular Town Council meetings adopted on March 29, 2007, providing for cancellation and change of time and place of individual, providing for cancellation, additions, and change in time and place. I'm going to amend that. Of individual regular town council meetings by motion of the town council, providing for conflict severability and effective date.
Okay. We have a resolution, we'll take it again first, a motion, a second, and then we'll open it for discussion.
I have two comments. First of all,
Okay, we're going to get a motion, a second, and then we'll discuss.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion.
second,
Okay, second by Ron. Discussion by council members. Ron?
I just want to thank the resident for finding this. It's only been 7 years since we've been in town. And I want to thank the legal staff for responding so quickly. I would have thought it would have been a week or two before, or probably the next council meeting before we would have taken care of the problem. But resident first for taking time out to find it, and council second for making it, taking care of the problem.
Okay? I know the problem, anyway. All right, Christine?
So are we good at 10:30 or?
Was that part? No, it's not.
It's not part yet, you have to add, do a
We'll have
motion
that.
to amend the motion.
Go ahead.
Christine St. John, 43rd Road North. There is no language regarding how many times you can cancel in the resolution, how many times you can cancel or change, and nothing about what, if any, effect a cancellation has on the amount of the council member's monthly stipend. And with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, I take offense that you're getting visibly aggravated that we might be here till midnight. We're talking about the budget. I think there's been a lot more discussion about horse poop than the budget. So just slow down, let us all know what's going on. Thank you.
And my concern about that, honestly, is not so much time, but I agree. Decisions made at 11 o'clock and 11:30 and 12 o'clock at night are normally not the best decisions. So, we just have to be, a lot of people in here work. They can't stay for the meeting that late. So we have to make sure that as many people as they can be here. But anyway, all right, we have a motion and a second on the resolution. Further discussion by council members? Are we going to amend it?
You would have to do a motion to amend and add the 10:30 cutoff, an extension by motion, and then that would have to be approved, and then we would vote on it as
All right.
amended.
Now, right now, it's in there.
No, it's not. I did not put it in there.
No, but it was in the original.
It was an original motion. So this is going to confirm that, and it only sets
So undo the
dates not in
existing
place.
ordinance.
The
which
10:30 is
says
not in
10:30
here.
is the number.
So if you want me to, I put it in here. I hadn't because this was
Because
not,
it's already in there.
no, because it wasn't your practice to end at 10:30.
Okay, but it was part of
It was
what
part of what you did on March 29, 2007.
and we never,
Adhere to it.
we never took that away, we just didn't abide by it.
Exactly right.
So we need
So I
that.
didn't know if you wanted me to put it in here and this one or not.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to.
Someone want to amend this by putting the time in there?
I'd like to see it amended with Glenn's motion, so.
Okay.
I don't mind that anything. I always shoot for 10 o'clock anyway, so.
All right. So you're amending it to include the language for the 10:30.
Yeah, I would, if the motion, I'll tell you what my proposed language is if the motion gets a second.
Okay, and who seconded that? Or do you second it, Ron?
Yeah.
Okay, you're all right with 10:30? Okay.
And so what I'll add is in section 2, after 7 p.m., say, and end no later than 10:30 p.m., which can be extended by motion of the council.
Okay.
Semicolon and place shall be.
All right.
Okay?
Referendum, we need a roll call vote?
Well, on the amendment, you have to, let's do 2 roll calls. Roll call on the amendment and roll call on the resolution.
Okay.
Mayor Browning,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Darrell,
Yes.
Councilman Bolton,
Yes.
Councilman Rocket,
Yes.
Councilman Liang,
Yes.
All right, now we go to the original referendum.
Yeah, that's on the amendment. Now you got to vote on the resolution as amended.
Okay.
So,
Roll call vote.
yes, you're going to vote on the original motion.
Right. We have a motion and a second.
Yes.
So,
Roll call vote.
Roll
okay,
call vote,
I'm
please.
sorry, what was the,
The original motion that was made for the amendments, we're going back and voting on the main motion. There's a motion to approve.
okay? Vice Mayor Darrell,
Yes.
Councilman Bolton,
Yes.
Councilman Rocket,
Yes.
Councilman Liang,
Yes.
and Mayor Browning.
Yes. All right, moving to 8, administrative update.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have two items for your consideration tonight. First, I want to report on the master plan process. As you know, in our comprehensive plan, we put in language about the fact that every 5 years, the college will come back and provide the council with a master plan update. They want to come forward and do the first update. We have, town planner and I have sat down and we've worked out with them. What I want to do is give you a rough schedule what we thought we would do is, number one, we would have a workshop prior to your council meeting, ideally on August 19th. We would invite members of the P and Z to also attend. What the college will do is they'll provide you all the information in 3-ring binders, and they'll provide 20 copies, so council and P and Z will have the copies. We're expecting that it'll be 1 hour, so that you can start your meeting at 7 o'clock. And there would be enough time for the presentation and for any questions that you might have of the college. The other alternative, we think that's the best alternative. The other alternative is to have it as an agenda item within your agenda that night and not do it as a workshop before the meeting. But again, it could last as long as an hour, so we thought it would be better to do the workshop, have the P and Z here for the workshop, and then, if they want to go, they can, and then you can start your regular meeting. So all I need is your direction tonight, if you want me to proceed the way we're currently doing it as a workshop prior to the August 19th meeting.
Everybody all right with that?
Say that again, you're gonna have a meeting and workshop starting at 7?
No, the workshop will be 6.
Will you do a motion to set the workshop?
All right, so we need a motion for this. All right, someone want to make a motion?
I make the motion to make the workshop at 6 o'clock, August
19th.
19th.
Okay, we have a motion by Ron. A second?
Second.
Second by Ron. Further discussion? Any discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 4-0.
The other item I have is, I wanted to make council aware of the fact, I have just responded, and I provided you copies by email of one management inquiry by the Office of the Inspector General. That went out yesterday. However, on the letter is dated July 9th, but we received the correspondence from them on July 15th this week. It relates to questions regarding the Waxahachie Grove's expenditure of gas tax revenues. You have a copy in your agenda. If you go back to the second page and you look at after reviewing it, most of the questions are of a legal nature. So what I have done is I have taken the liberty to provide it to Mike ahead of time, and I've asked Mike to start to look at it since it is going to need a legal review more than a town management review. So I wanted you to be aware of it. I wanted you to know that Mike has it. We provided Mike with some additional information that he needs, and they're looking for a response back by August 8, 2014. I think Mike will probably be a lot quicker than that. But
It'll go out next week. Response will go out next week.
okay.
Provide the information to the board.
All right.
And that's all I have in the management report.
Regarding this, I think we need to make sure that the answers are factual and accurate, and not just trying to justify what's been. Because the gas tax has been, in many people's eyes, a black cloud hanging over the town, or whatever you want to call it. I think that we need to, this could be an opportunity where they give us their blessing that everything is okay and done, and then this issue can be over with. But I really have always said that there's not been a dedication, as Keith's pointed out in many of his writings here. These are easements that are on people, that are owned by people, and that hasn't been turned over. They weren't constructed by the town in the same way that the district roads were. So, we do have to look at these AGO opinions. We have to look at everything. If Mike feels confident, that's good, but we also need to feel that what we're doing is right. Because just as the people on Compton, Marcel, and Bryan turned their roads over, everybody else could too, and make that same decision. Then it wouldn't be a cloud. It would be a fully understood and a process that I think we need to go to. There was a resolution over a year ago from the RETAG committee where former Councilman Lauda said that we ought to address this issue. And it was a 5-0 vote that we ought to address the issue of people turning over the roads to the town. And then we could collect gas tax and we could make our expenditures without running afoul of any of this and without making people feel like things are being done improperly. When they feel that things aren't done right, and we act like, no, we're doing it right, just don't worry about it and forget about it, that's not a right answer. We need to treat people with respect, and we need to look at these questions. Obviously, there's issues that have not gone away, have not gone away, have not gone away. I think they should be addressed. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Ron?
Is it necessary for the water control district to assist in this letter? And they were pretty knowledgeable about stuff we passed through legislation and about maintaining roads for a certain period of time. Do you want to? Or is
I
this-
think we make them aware of it, but this is a management inquiry where they're asking for some information based on the complaint that they got. I think we can provide them that information, and then go with the next step if they deem that they want to follow up on that or something's not clear. But we're at a stage. We got one of these last year who responded and we closed it. And we're just gonna, I was going to just provide the information to them. We do agreements with the water control district, which provide for that every year. Give them that information and then be available to them to meet with them on it.
Sure.
And I really would think that's the best way to approach it.
Okay, Tom?
Now, relative to the water control district, one of the issues that exists is a facilities report in which the district continues to claim the roads that they supposedly turned over to the town on their facilities report this year. They say that they own and maintain the OGM roads that the town is paying for, and that the town, even though we have been given deeds, it still appears on their report this year. There needs to be coordination one between the other, because two people can't say they own the same thing and be right.
Well, to me, it's not even a question of coordination. Originally, the gas tax money was divided by lane miles as compared to district roads and town roads.
Well, there's been a reduction in lane
That's what I'm
miles
saying.
and
So
no
I
reduction
agree.
in money.
That needs to be reduced, because as they turn the roads over, that gas tax money needs to go to the town and not the water control.
And what I'm saying is, on their report this year, they reported to the state that those roads are still theirs. And that's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what leads to this.
Okay, Keith Harris?
She didn't hit me with it, I guess. There.
Keith Harris, 2580 C Road. This does affect each and every individual property owner in this town. To simply just hand it over to town council and have him boilerplate a response and hope that it will go away is unfair to the citizens. We are in jeopardy in so many ways of dual government causing conflict that the people we don't trust what's going on anymore. We would like very much, and I think everyone here would like to have a open, public council session to discuss this issue at length, to formulate the answers that the town can live with, not just an elected policy-making body, not just an appointed, contracted legal counsel. You know, if you want to do it behind closed doors, why don't we just shut the town down? So I request a public hearing, a town council session to discuss and formulate the answers so that we give the Inspector General the proper information that they're looking for.
Well, right now, I think the proper way, and I don't know, Keith, I don't know that anything's been done behind closed doors on this. I mean, you know, I think the proper thing is have.
Let's keep it in the sunshine. Let's keep it in the sunshine.
And we always have, Keith. We haven't had any secret meetings on this thing. I've been part of the original board. I was on the water control board before that. There have been no secret meetings on this is what we're gonna do and this is where we're gonna go. You know, everything has been above board. The whole concept of the tax money and the original people that pushed for incorporation of this town didn't even know if we could qualify for $1 for our residents. Didn't even know whether we could. We approached the League of Cities and said, do the roads that we have in our town qualify? We were told by them and the county that they did. So we saw an opportunity to gain money for the residents of Loch Etchie Groves to maintain the roads. We can give that all back if that's a wishes for everybody and stop doing the maintenance. I don't know that the people in Loch Etchie Groves want to do that.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think that's the solution. The solution is very simply to ask people, such as Keith, who lives on a road where there's 4 homes, asked Keith to sign over the 30 feet that's in front of his house to the town.
Due
And
process.
his neighbor who was here last week talking about the garbage. Get both of them to sign it over. If they signed it over, then that road would be a town road as much as Marcella, as much as Compton or any. That's all that I'm asking in
Okay.
order to achieve the agreement from Keith and from his neighbor and from the people there that we've turned over our easement rights to the town. It's fine for you to do what you want. It's not my responsibility anymore. But understand when we do that Keith's got some trees in that 30 feet. Maybe his fence, and he's not the only one. And what I'm saying is, each one of these things leads to another thing, but to do it right, you gotta break some eggs.
And I understand what you're saying, Tom. Yeah, but to do that, now we're incurring the cost of surveying, the cost of everything else. And all of a sudden, I'm gonna wonder, are we gaining enough from the gas tax to even do it? We had a legal precedent that said there are existing roads in our town that have been there used by the public for X amount of years. And that's what the town based it on. Those were not closed off roads. They were roads used by all the residents in the town. And therefore, our attitude was we're gonna set them forth and collect gas tax money. If anybody objects, we'll take it off the roll. It just reduces the amount of money the town gets, but we can do that.
Hearsay.
Well, these questions, 4 questions involve the water district. We had a resolution 2008-18, that we dissolved the relationship between the town and the district because the League of Cities and Palm Beach County had a problem the way we were collecting or claiming the gas tax. So we've got some issues here that still exist. That's why it needs to be done in a public session.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah. Jim?
we should have Mike provide, which he would be providing, factual statements. To suggest that we're not doing that, but our legal counsel provides the answer, I think, is a disservice to him. The answers are going to be based on what we know as far as statutes, et cetera, and as Mike said, that's the process. You get a question, you respond. If it comes back, they have the option to come back and say, need more information, or have other comment. We've taken this response, and we're stepping in a lot of other areas that I think we need to go back to what we actually have in front of us is normally sent to town or villages, cities, and they respond. And there's nobody in better position to do that than Mike. And we don't have the time to sit and talk about it. We certainly can talk about it another time, but there's differences on this council as to what may be the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, and this is not the issue. We don't have, this is not the time to do it with this. We can bring it up as another item, let's kick it around if we think we're gonna do something differently. But we already had a conversation about opting in and opting out, and some wanna do it one way, some wanna do another, but, I mean, your point is, I think, right on. Anybody, and we've been doing this for the last few years, somebody comes forward and says, this road is the road that I don't want to be maintained, I wanna make it a private road. And you know, we've had 2 people, 1 person, whatever, they've done that, we've taken them off. We continue to do that, so they have the opt-out rights. And I think Mike just needs to move forward and let's get this done. We don't spend the night talking about this. Instead of talking about maybe budget items.
Okay. All right, I've got Phyllis.
I want to save mine for public comment if I can.
Okay. All right. All right, so any other discussion? That's public comment. 11A. You want yours under public comment, Virginia?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay.
It'll be part of, I'll address part of this under.
Okay. All right. We have no old business, we have no new business.
So wait a minute, Mr. Mayor, we're telling Mike to go ahead and answer
Yes.
this. Okay.
Absent anything
That's
different,
your
that's
job.
what I was gonna do, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right? Everybody all right with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that at some point we need to address this issue. And I've tried to do it at 3 different times when we've had conversations about roads. And we always put it off and we always leave it off. You came to the right conclusion tonight that I've been trying to ask for a long time. Is it worth it for what you get? What you get a lane mile, is that worth it for what you take on when you say this road is a real road? And when it's Keith's driveway and the guy hits the tree, it's Keith's problem. And I don't care if he's going to the guy behind Keith, because Keith, when he bought the place, made a deal that that guy could drive over his land, but he didn't make a deal that just some kid who wants to come out here and play his radio can park in his front yard and say, hey, buddy, this is a public road, I can do what I want. I've had that over on my place, and I sure wish there was a way to cut C Road off, because we have trash dumping, and we have the people just coming and hanging out and doing stuff, and when you say something to them, the PBSO, I'm not faulting them. It's a free country. They say, here, you're on the water district property, you can do what you want, have a nice time, and so they do.
Yes.
Okay? But everybody else should understand that.
Right.
When you live down the end of one of these roads and you think you're a half mile out in the woods, if that's a town road, somebody can do whatever the heck they want right outside your gate if it's not illegal, and they can do it all night long if they want. So understand, and we as a town need to understand that we're taking on responsibility when we do this. You know, you want to talk about district roads and people running off in canals and all this stuff, there's many more pine trees, and I know people that died hitting pine trees before, so it's not a joke. People do dumb things, people go fast, people, you don't have lights, you don't have any of this stuff, and we want to pretend it's a road, it's a public road, we want to say this. I'm trying not to be crazy about this, but think about the issue. What are we trying to do? To put a line item on here for our gas tax revenue, when we give half of it away to somebody else who in the newspaper brags about being 150 grand up when we're giving them 150 grand, I don't get it.
I agree. All right, moving on to public comments. Virginia.
Virginia Standish
And if I
one.
could, that's why we're in trouble. All these questions are about giving them money.
No, I
If
agree.
we didn't give them the money, if we didn't get the money to give it to them, then we wouldn't be the ones being asked the question.
I agree.
And they've raised their taxes, and like you said, people would understand where the money went.
Yeah.
There's no magic money, just by what Ken thinks.
Still free.
No, I don't think there's enough cans on the side of all the roads in Florida to pay for our road issues.
Virginia.
Virginia Standish, 15410 North Road. I will add to my public comment, what I was going to add. That Inspector General inquiry was sent to the town. We are a town. Let's run the town as a town. We don't need to be asking the Loxahatchee Groves Water Control District anything to cover their tracks. If the Inspector General would like to ask the Water District what they're doing gas tax money, I'm sure they'll send them a letter. So let's be a town, let's grow up, and let's answer our own thing. Let's stop running to the Water District to protect, to cover something up, is how it looks to the rest of us. I'd also like to remind you that in 2005, the state legislature was informed that this reason we were asking to be a town was to be kept rural. That was a nice PR campaign. I think our charter mentioned something about paving and equestrian trails. We spent quite a bit of money in front of the legislature for various reasons. That is simply to gain site control for grants. There is no excuse that 60 feet of road, which I had road frontage of that was blatantly private easement. I don't care what Mr. Klingsong and the Loxahatchee Groves Water Control District fantasy they were having, and we can always bring Marty Perry in to explain it to someone who doesn't understand that. Private easement, 60 feet of road, one side I gave up my road, the other side there is an easement that since 1918 has been used by the public, and people need to open up their gates. So when we are talking about projects, all we're hearing is paving, paving, paving. We are a community of people. We are just not a community of cars. And what we are doing is we are paving and we are pushing people who had a safe place to ride off the road. So when you want to be consistent and provide for the entire community, and if somehow we get our legal issues straight on the gas tax, which a lot of these people don't seem to understand. They see the dollar signs and they're not told the truth about what's going on and why their roads aren't being done. And they'll probably be very surprised at the end of all this. But the point is, if you plan a project and you plan a road and you're going to pave the road, let's use some common sense and say, let's provide for the whole community on that road and take care of the strip for the trails and the strip for the road instead of just the paving. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Virginia. Phyllis?
Phyllis Manila, 359 West Steam Road. Trails. We went to the Water District meeting the other night. Okay? Trails, we don't have trails because it's your fault, not their fault. Okay? It's your fault. If we ask them, or ask you, it's their fault. Let's start somewhere close, 6 Court North. We could drive that tractor right there. There's a ditch. Let's just start small. Let's start there, if I may suggest that. Second of all, Mr. Cutney brought up the OIG. I had a case with the OIG. I have a case with the OIG. He was supposed to answer them on the 16th of July. I would like that brought out at a meeting. Okay? I went before you guys many times asking for help as far as my issue with the code enforcement complaint and what went on in my case, and several of the other residents. It's not just about me. Okay? I want that brought out. There was a problem with getting documents from our town management, among other things. I'm not going to run on about it, but I would like my OIG case also brought out.
Your Honor, I indicated that earlier. I sent a 51-page response on Wednesday. They have the response to your inquiry. If you'd like a copy, I'll be happy to provide it to you.
Do I have to pay for it?
No, I'll give it to you free.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, we can hear about it.
All right, moving to the town attorney report.
I can hear about it.
No more.
Hey, town council, Trevor Tom.
I think I've said enough this evening. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We'll continue our line item review of the budget. Hope everybody's here for it. We're going to do it our next, what is our next meeting that we're going to discuss? August 5th?
That's your next
So
regular.
what is the next time we're going to be discussing the budget? So we're going to say we're going to do general fund maybe?
Yes, we're gonna have to schedule discussions on each fund if that's the way you want to do it. So it would be August 5th, yes.
August 5th?
So the next,
Which is first meeting in August.
Unless you schedule something special meeting, workshop, etc.
we have to do it on September 2nd.
All right, so we
We
need
have
to
to do it
assign.
September 2nd anyway?
Have to do it September 2nd.
That's your first public hearing, so you can discuss it ahead of time, or you can wait till your
We
public.
can wait till our public hearing and go through the general fund at that point. is what you're saying.
We move that to the 9th. Not September 2nd, September 9th.
September 9th. Okay. Ron,
Does anybody,
anything else, Tom? No, hold on.
No, other than thanks.
Okay, Ron?
the August 5th meeting, is any of the council members like to start it at 6 so we can, or too early? In other words, I'd definitely like to get the budget out of the way. We could start an hour early.
I'd spend an hour to talk about
We would get out, no matter what, instead of getting out at 11, we'd get out at
Do you
10.
want me to schedule general fund for the 5th?
I would be okay with that. Starting at 6 o'clock is what Ron's saying.
Do a motion.
The only problem I've got with a 6 o'clock start is a lot of our people in town work. And it's really hard to get home through the traffic, get something to eat, and come to a 6 o'clock meeting. I mean, it was hard enough for me to get my grass mowed tonight and get here at 6 o'clock. I mean, it basically skipped dinner, so,
We've had the budget.
I mean, I'm glad we have interest in the budget. I'm very glad people are interested. I'm glad they want to know. So I want to give people that opportunity, as I'm sure Jim does. We'll go through it line item by line item, talk about everything, justify it from the bottom up, because I agree with Jim. Zero-based is the way to go. Let's decide positively we want to do something versus we just do it because we do it.
We have a regular agenda starting at 7 o'clock. And
okay. It's Ron's time for
I
coming.
want to put it on the front end.
Thank everybody for coming. Have a nice weekend. Be careful going home.
Okay, Ryan.
Thanks for spending your Friday evening with us. And look forward to seeing you guys again.
Should for Fridays.
Yeah.
Give a little pizza on Fridays.
Yeah.
Put that in the resolution.
Okay.
If I'm out of hand, let me know, Mike. But we've got a position on the FACT committee that's open, and that's Ryan's choice to pick. So, do we have anybody here tonight that would like to be on the FACT committee?
Yeah, get a hold of Ryan.
Okay, get a hold of Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay, you've got nothing to get in there. Okay.
Thank everybody.
Comments? Okay.
Thank everybody for coming.
Okay, and thank you all for coming. We've got some tough decisions to make. You know, I think one of the things we're gonna have to face is as we begin to do these roads, if people want the ozone, whether we liked it or not, the Water Control Board had a good system. I never voted for it, but that meant that the people that were on the roads voted and paid for the ozoning of their roads. And, you know, I don't think that we can afford to come in here and ozone every road in Loxahatchee Groves. There's not enough gas tax money, there's not enough there. I think the other thing is, we're gonna have to deal with this. When we first became a town, we were under the gun. The state and all put a lot of dates. You have to have this established by this date, you have to have it established by this. So things like the gas tax money, it was a foot race to get the number of lane miles put together. Virginia, you were right. That came from Clete Saunier.
Right, you guys need to read what we handed out, the public.
No, I understand, and I had questions about a lot of those roads, but at the same time, there was a very loose criteria, you know, that the county and the League of Cities were using to collect gas taxes. Can an emergency vehicle get back to your house? You know, you didn't have to receive your mail back there, it was very loose.
Yeah, that's not what speaking of. We handed out something last time regarding, was it municipal guidelines for municipalities or something? You need to get away from the water district method. You need to look at what municipalities, how the state operates and how municipalities are required to regulate. You need to read that.
Okay, and I'll read that. I guess there's not many towns that have impressed me on how they take care of taxes and how they take care of infrastructure. And most of them, in the long run, do what if I thought our town was going to, I would have never supported becoming a town. I mean, bottom line. If we're going to become like everybody else, then you know what? We might as well just stay as an orphan stepchild of the county. All right, have a motion to adjourn. Thank you all for coming.